The sun had not yet risen over Umuokoro when the first rooster opened its mouth. Kokoroko. Another answered from the other side of the village. Kokoroko. A third rooster, apparently determined to prove that he was the most important rooster in Umuokoro, crowed before the second one had even finished. Then came the sound that usually announced a peaceful morning. Women sweeping their compounds. Children arguing over breakfast. Goats fighting over leaves. Men preparing for the farms. Mortars pounding yam. The village was waking. But inside a small mud hut at the edge of the village, something terrible was about to happen. King Odogwu Nnanna was still asleep. His body was exhausted. His mind was exhausted. He had spent the previous day searching for work, being laughed at, nearly losing his dignity to a stubborn goat, and then witnessing Tortoise's ridiculous attempt to sell invisible medicine. For the first time in years, the former king had slept without servants watching over him. He had no guards, no musicians, no royal mattress, no palace, only a raffia mat. And Obinna's grandmother had given him a small piece of cloth to use as a blanket. The king slept deeply. Then, thief! The scream tore through the village. Thief! 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 The king jumped up. What? Another voice screamed. The royal jewels. The king froze. His heart began pounding. What royal jewels? Then he heard footsteps. Many footsteps. People were running toward his hut. Obinna burst through the doorway. Wake up. What happened? They found something. What? Jewels. The king stared at him. What jewels? Obinna grabbed his arm. Your jewels. My jewels. Yes. But I don't have any jewels. I know. Then why are they saying I do? Obinna looked frightened. That is the problem. Within minutes, the small hut was surrounded by villagers. Men stood with sticks. Women whispered. Children climbed trees for a better view. Even goats gathered. Apparently, goats enjoyed scandals. At the front stood Chief Minister Okoro. He wore his finest robe. Beside him were several former palace officials. The same men who once bowed whenever King Odogwu entered the palace. Now they stood with their arms folded. Chief Okoro raised his hand. Search the hut. 2 men entered. A moment later one of them shouted. We found something. He came outside carrying a large leather bag. The crowd gasped. Chief Okoro opened it. Gold ornaments. Coral beads. Royal bracelets. Precious stones. The missing royal jewels. The villagers began murmuring. It is his. He stole them. I knew something was wrong. He pretended to be poor. He was hiding the treasure. The king stared at the jewels. He could barely breathe. These are mine. Chief Okoro smiled. So you admit it? The king shook his head. No. I mean they belong to the royal treasury. Chief Okoro turned toward the crowd. You heard him. The crowd erupted. He admits it. No. That is not what I said. But nobody listened. The king looked desperately at Obinna. The boy stepped forward. My king did not steal those jewels. Chief Okoro laughed. Your king? He looked around. Where is his kingdom? Nobody answered. Chief Okoro pointed at the hut. This man has been pretending to be poor while secretly keeping royal treasure. The king's voice shook. I swear before God and my ancestors, I did not put those jewels there. Chief Okoro smiled. Of course. He turned to the crowd. A thief always has an explanation. The king felt something inside him break. Not because he was being accused, but because he knew exactly who had done it. His former ministers. The men he had trusted. The men who had eaten from his table. The men who had laughed at his jokes. The men who had sworn loyalty to him. Now they were using his own possessions to destroy him. The king looked at Chief Okoro. You served me for 17 years. Yes. You ate at my table. Yes. You advised me. Yes. I trusted you. Chief Okoro smiled. That was your mistake. The crowd became silent. The king stared at him. Chief Okoro continued. A king who trusts everyone is like a farmer who leaves his barn open during harvest. The king's eyes filled with anger. So this is what you wanted? What? My throne. Chief Okoro laughed. You no longer have a throne. That sentence hurt more than the accusation. Because it was true. The king had spent his entire life believing the throne belonged to him. Now he understood something painful. A throne is not property. It is responsibility temporarily placed in someone's hands. He had mistaken possession for stewardship. And perhaps that was where his downfall had begun. The crowd began demanding that the king be taken before the council. One man shouted, "Lock him up." Another shouted, "Throw him out of the village." A third shouted, "Search everywhere. He may have hidden more." Obinna stepped between the king and the crowd. "No." Chief Okoro frowned. "Move aside, boy." "No. You are protecting a thief." "He is not a thief." "How do you know?" "Because I know him." Chief Okoro laughed. "You have known him for only 2 days." Obinna nodded. "And you knew him for 17 years. Silence. The boy continued. "Yet you abandoned him after 2 days of poverty." The crowd murmured. Obinna pointed at the former ministers. If he were truly a thief, why did he spend yesterday looking for work? Nobody answered. If he had royal treasure, why did he eat roasted yam with me? Silence. If he wanted to hide his wealth, why would he live in this hut? Chief Okoro's face tightened. Obinna had a point. The crowd began whispering again. Perhaps the king was innocent. Chief Okoro quickly interrupted. Enough. He turned toward his men. Take him away. 2 guards approached Obinna. The king stepped forward. Do not touch him. The guard stopped. The king looked at Obinna. You have done enough. But go home. Obinna shook his head. No. The king frowned. Why? The boy smiled. Because you shared your last piece of yam with me yesterday. The king looked confused. I thought you gave it to me. I did. So? Obinna grinned. Then you owe me. For the first time that morning. The king laughed. Even some villagers smiled. Chief Okoro did not. As the crowd escorted the king toward the council grounds, a strange thing happened. The mysterious traveler appeared. He stood at the edge of the crowd. Nobody knew where he had come from. He simply stood there, watching. The king saw him. Their eyes met. The king wanted to run toward him. Instead, the traveler slowly raised one finger to his lips. Wait. The king stopped. The traveler disappeared into the crowd. The king frowned. Why would he tell him to wait? Why not defend him? Why not reveal the truth? The king felt abandoned. He had expected the traveler to rescue him. But the old man did nothing. And perhaps that was another lesson. Sometimes, the person who knows the answer does not give it to you. Sometimes you must discover it yourself. The village square became a courtroom. Chief Okoro sat at the center. The former king stood before him. The stolen jewels lay on a wooden table. Villagers crowded around. Mama Ejiro was there. Obinna was there. Tortoise was there too. Of course. Tortoise never missed a scandal. He had even brought roasted groundnuts. Obinna stared at him. You came here to eat. Tortoise shrugged. Justice is tiring work. He cracked a groundnut. Someone must remain nourished. Obinna rolled his eyes. Chief Okoro began. King Odogwu Nnanna, you have been accused of stealing royal property. The king answered. I did not steal anything. Then explain how the jewels entered your hut. I cannot. Exactly. The king frowned. That does not make me guilty. Chief Okoro smiled. Perhaps not. He turned to the crowd. But innocence must be demonstrated. Mama Ejiro suddenly spoke. No. Everyone turned. She stepped forward. Innocence does not need to demonstrate what it did not do. Chief Okoro frowned. Old woman, remain silent. Mama Ejiro smiled. I have been silent for many years. She looked at him. Perhaps that is why foolish men have become comfortable. The crowd laughed. Tortoise nearly swallowed his groundnut whole. Chief Okoro's face darkened. Mama Ejiro approached the leather bag. She examined it carefully. Then she smelled it. The crowd stared. Chief Okoro laughed. Are you now a detective? Mama Ejiro ignored him. She turned to the king. Did you ever see this bag before? No. She looked at Obinna. Did you? No. She looked at Tortoise. Tortoise froze. Why are you looking at me? Mama Ejiro smiled. Because you always look innocent when you are guilty. The crowd laughed. Tortoise placed his hand on his chest. Madam, you wound me. I have not even started. More laughter. But then Mama Ejiro became serious. She pointed toward the bag. This leather is new. Chief Okoro frowned. So, the royal treasury used old leather bags. How do you know? I made some of them. The crowd murmured. She continued. The royal seal was always stamped inside. A guard checked. Nothing. No royal seal. The king looked surprised. Chief Okoro immediately shouted. The seal could have been removed. Mama Ejiro shook her head. No. Why? Because the leather has never been stamped. Silence. A murmur passed through the crowd. Suddenly, the evidence against the king began to weaken. Tortoise slowly approached the bag. He sniffed it. Then sniffed again. He looked at Chief Okoro. Then at the ministers. Then at the jewels. His expression changed. For once, Tortoise was not joking. He whispered. This bag smells of the council hall. Chief Okoro jumped. What nonsense. Tortoise smiled. I spend my life around thieves. Everyone laughed. But I know the smell of a government building. Even the king looked at him strangely. Tortoise continued. Old paper. Dust. Palm oil. And he sniffed again. That terrible perfume Chief Okoro uses. The entire village exploded with laughter. Chief Okoro shouted. Silence. But it was too late. People were now suspicious. The crowd began demanding that the jewels be examined. Chief Okoro tried to stop them. But the king raised his hand. Let them. Everyone became silent. The king looked at the jewels. Then he said something nobody expected. If those jewels are mine, return them to the kingdom. Chief Okoro stared at him. What? I do not want them. The crowd gasped. The former king continued. I once believed those jewels made me important. He looked at the villagers. I was wrong. He touched the simple cloth around his body. I have learned more in these few days of poverty than I learned during years in my palace. The crowd became quiet. I have learned what hunger feels like. I have learned what rejection feels like. I have learned what it means to walk. And I have learned that a man can sit on a golden throne and still be poor in wisdom. Nobody spoke. Even Chief Okoro was silent. The king looked toward Obinna. And I have learned that a boy who owns almost nothing can possess more kindness than a palace full of wealthy men. Obinna smiled. The king then turned toward Chief Okoro. If you want the throne. He paused. Take it. The crowd gasped again. Chief Okoro smiled. The king continued. But understand this. He pointed toward the villagers. A throne without the trust of the people is only a decorated chair. The crowd erupted. Some shouted his name. Others clapped. Chief Okoro's smile vanished. That evening, Tortoise approached the king. The king looked suspicious. What do you want? Tortoise smiled. Nothing. The king laughed. Now I know you are planning something. Tortoise sighed. You have no confidence in me. Correct. Fair enough. He sat beside him. Then his expression became serious. I know who planted those jewels. The king turned. Who? Tortoise looked around. Not here. Tell me. Not yet. Why? Because if I tell you now, we may both end up sleeping in the forest. The king frowned. Then why tell me at all? Tortoise smiled. Because I owe you. You? Yes. For what? You stopped me from cheating that merchant yesterday. The king laughed. That is why you owe me. Yes. You embarrassed yourself. Exactly. Tortoise stood. Tomorrow, I will show you something. What? Tortoise smiled. The place where lies are manufactured. He walked away. The king watched him disappear into the darkness. Obinna came out from behind the hut. Do you trust him? The king shook his head. No. Good. But. The king looked toward the road. Sometimes even a dishonest man can tell the truth. Obinna nodded. That is what makes him dangerous. The following morning, something strange appeared near the village market. A large wooden sign. It read, Tortoise's School of Deception. Learn to lie without sweating. First lesson free. Underneath was another line. Special course, how to look innocent while holding the evidence. The village went crazy. People gathered. Children laughed. Women shook their heads. Men wondered whether it was serious. Tortoise stood proudly beside the sign. He wore spectacles he did not need. He carried a long stick. And he had somehow acquired a graduation cap. Obinna stared at him. You are mad. Tortoise smiled. No. I am an educator. The king arrived. He looked at the sign. Then at Tortoise. What is this? Tortoise bowed. Your Majesty. The king frowned. Don't call me that. Tortoise nodded. Former Majesty. Still wrong. Your poverty. The king laughed. Just call me Odogwu. Tortoise smiled. As you wish. He pointed toward the gathering crowd. Today, we shall expose the greatest lie in Umuokoro. The king became serious. Which lie? Tortoise pointed toward the council hall. The lie that you stole those jewels. The king's face hardened. And how will you prove it? Tortoise smiled. That. He tapped his shell. Is lesson 1. The crowd leaned forward. Tortoise raised his stick. Welcome, he shouted, to the school of deception. The villagers cheered. And somewhere inside the council hall, Chief Okoro heard the noise. His face turned pale. Because he knew something the others did not. Tortoise was dangerous when he was joking. But when Tortoise became serious, someone was usually about to lose everything.